And now, a 60-second improvised speech by Alex Knight about whether Ronald McDonald is a good citizen to America.
Okay. I would say the fact that Ronald McDonald has been absent from the media for the past 5 to 10 years means that something happened. We don't like clowns anymore, and that's part of it. And he's not the kind of guy that can change his profession. It's locked in. And that could be part of it. But with the growing Me Too movement and men being revealed for what they are, and especially men that walk around wearing masks all the time, I would say something has happened. Now, I'm not going to venture into what that is because I don't want to speculate. He's a character. Let's remember that. So he is beyond the rules of time and space and the government and the legal system. But something happened to him. And I promise I will do a little research and I will let you all know when I find out if something happened and if this man is a role model or a role battle.
All right. Great
All right.
job.
Okay. All right. Here we go. And now a 1 minute riff about by Sarah Kennedy about does Dracula like the internet?
Oh. We've got lots of questions these days. What are we going to do about Social Security someday? What are we going to do about our children getting red pilled on the internet? Who loves to get a red pill on the internet? A little guy named Dracula. And that pill, why is it so red? Because of blood. I think that the internet is appealing to Dracula because he is a night creature, and who among us hasn't spent hours and hours on the internet late into the night? So it's a way for him to be social. I think that Dracula would like the internet because there is a chance to be somewhat anonymous. You can date somewhat anonymously and find some hookups anonymously on the internet, I've been told. And I think that's a great way to find some victims in the evening, is just to maybe get on, not Grinder. I don't want you to, don't hate crime, Dracula. Come on. But I think that would be like a great way for it. Tender, maybe. Very tender, ideally, for Dracula is probably what he wants. I don't pretend to know what a vampire needs, but I do pretend to know what a vampire likes, and that's the internet. And I think that Dracula would do well on the internet. I think he'd be an influencer and a thought leader. If you ask me, do I think Dracula likes the internet? I'll tell you yes. Decidedly, yes. Is that a minute? Did you time me?
Oh shit! I didn't time you. You had the timer. That's a minute. That's a minute.
Perfect.
And I forgot we should give each other those time cues so we know that when you're in that horrible void, that you're not alone. That there's at least someone on comms. Good job. You called him a little guy. I think I noticed we both almost felt bad with these made up people when we started to assume about them. It was like, I don't know what he likes.
Yeah, Ronald McDonald, that's a tough one because you're right. He has been missing.
He's not around.
He's not part of the zeitgeist.
Are any of them? I feel like Hamburglar. I'm seeing them as like people dress up as them, but yeah, they're not being used so much, are they?
Right. I think they're trying to bring them back because Grimace had a big summer, but
oh, he did. He had his big shake.
Yeah.
And the Hamburglar's straight up a criminal.
Yes.
Like wearing a mask, like he's not technically a role model. So yeah, they made a big batch of kind of trouble that they're dealing with, I think.
Yeah, I think, and then the Fry guys, they had to make them Fry kids eventually because they were gender essentialists. It was a whole thing. All right.
Crazy.
Ready to get started?
Yeah, let's get started.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to the Goofball Coalition, the podcast that lives where improv and stand-up collide. And now, here's your hosts, Alex Knight and Sarah Kennedy.
Oh, hey, welcome to the Goofball Coalition. This is the podcast where improv and stand-up shake hands. My name is Sarah Kennedy.
I'm Alex Knight.
I am a stand-up comedian.
And I'm an improviser.
And for so long have never the twain had met, and now the twain do meet.
This is it, huh? Okay, this is the Appomattox courthouse of the Civil War of improv and stand-up.
Oh, man, one of us has to surrender.
We'll see. Our Patreons are what, 1 and 1?
we're at a one-on-one tie.
Very
Yeah, team stand-up versus team improv. But again, this is where we shake hands, and I appreciate it. Today we've got a big old topic that has a really interesting history to it, and that's about blue humor and blue comedy. And both, from what I've seen, both sides use it. It's a really old-timey term, but it still pops up every once in a while.
Yeah. So what is blue humor? If you don't know at all, I would describe it just if someone asked me about, we have a blue show coming up. So if someone asked me what that is, I'd say it's just an R-rated show. It's always R-rated, but it's like intentionally R-rated. It's pushing those limits, pushing, I don't know, the mostly sexual, I would say,
Yeah.
right? Mostly sexual and what do you
Poop
call it?
jokes. I think
Poop
you get a
jokes?
lot more
What's
poop
the
jokes.
what's the best way of
Scatological
saying it?
humor.
Scatological humor?
Yeah.
Is that covers farts and all kinds of
Uh-huh.
excrement and everything, or excretions? Cool. Yeah, it's that kind of stuff. We don't really get into violence, but I guess it would open up the door for very violent, gory comedy if such a thing existed.
I think that's also very American for us to be like, and then we don't really worry about violence. That's not
Yeah,
really even that dirty to
violence
us.
is, to be fair, like that is the fucked up part, is violence is super in all of the improv, like all the time, especially people starting the craft or like the
Oh,
kids I'm teaching. It's just like murder all over the place, people killing people left and right. It's, yeah, the violence is not noticed, but sexuality is like ears perk up and people, yeah, very interesting. So the blue show, I would say, is mostly sexual humor. It's more like cranking that up a little bit.
yeah, it's interesting. You look at the history of it too. It's things like you can go way far back with it too. So there's two origin stories about where
Mhm.
that term came from, and one of them is a guy in the 30s through the 50s who'd be like, "I got a white notebook with regular jokes, and I got a blue notebook with other jokes, and these are the dirty ones. Which one do you want?"
And
And the
guess which
crowd,
one people wanted.
yeah, people always pick the blue one. He gets credited with it a lot, but actually, if you look into it, it goes way further back. And like dirty jokes go way, way back. We're talking like Chaucer and even further
Mhm,
back than
mhm,
that.
mhm.
But did you read that link I sent you about the history?
Yeah, I
You want
skimmed
to?
it.
Yeah. So there was like this like chancellor who wanted to censor people in the 1800s, and so when people would submit plays, he would have like a censor dude who would go through all the plays that were submitted and circle anything that was like untoward in the script, and if it was too much, you had to take it all out, or it would just get rejected. And that he used a blue pencil. They say that you're a blue guy because all that pencil.
It's, yeah, it's so great. There's 3 or 4 origin stories I've heard for break a leg too. It's so fun how like all these, it's just all, I don't know, the origins are so lost in all of this stuff in theater, I feel, in a lot of ways, in a really cool way, or at least they're murky.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. How do you use it? How often do you go blue? What is your percentage of that in your work?
Not much. I don't really think I'm very much of a dirty comedian. Although when I was in, I guess that's because I do comedy where my parents live, and my parents come to my
Yeah.
shows all the time. And so my parents came to my first show, and then they came to subsequent immediately afterward shows. And so I had just out of necessity wrote very cleanly and didn't curse or anything like that. And then anyway, I moved to New York and they weren't around, and then like all hell broke loose. But and
But even
so
then, I'm sure you went that way. You rebelled, but then probably pulled it back just based on your own
yeah,
moral compass.
I guess so. Yeah, that's it. But even the dirty jokes that I have, there are jokes that I'll write that I'm like, this is a dirty joke. And then people will be like, you have to tell it. You have to tell it. And so
Mhm.
then it finds its way into my stuff eventually. But it's not usually my instinct. So I have to like, I've been booked for dirty shows before. Like
Mhm.
it's the dirty show or it's the blue show, which is what we call it in the Funny Fiesta. And I have to really work to think through what are my jokes that I think are even could be considered dirty for this audience.
Yeah, I imagined your brain's just not going through that filter. If you need to, yeah, if you were sitting down to write that set, you can turn on, I think, that filter and find that stuff. But like, yeah. Similarly, I started doing comedy here where my parents are, and they came to my shows. And same thing, I would edit myself in some way, even down to my mom was like, hey, you could use the F word less in your shows, which is so terrible to have a voice in the back of your head telling you not to do things in some capacity. Maybe some ways it pushes you to do the other. But yeah, I think I had a filter, even based like the little bit of stand up I did too. I don't know. It was really hard to talk about people in town, or it felt difficult. I don't know if you experienced that, but that was part of the reason why I didn't do stand up. I always thought if I moved to another town, then I'll do it. But here it's such a small place that you'll know who I'm talking about, which is not true. And no one cares who I'm talking about, but it felt like people would. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, I could see all that working. I'm just at this point now, I'm floundering because I'm so curious about like with improv to intentionally choose to go blue. Do you know what I mean? To
Yeah.
make it to where, okay, guys, this is our dirty show. We gotta go out there and be dirty. Like, how does
Uh-huh.
that impact the connection and the other aspects of things?
It's funny. I think there's two ways. Yeah, I think you can fuck up and put that too much in your forefront and try to be dirty. But I think what it does for me when I do a blue show is it just lets my characters be even more genuine and honest with their opinions. Instead, I take away the politeness from my characters, more or less, maybe
Oh,
in some
cool.
ways. Yeah, and I don't know, it's nice. It's nice to not regulate that. At the same time, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes it feels forced or whatever. And what we'll find is like our audience is so hungry for it. Like even in general, we get so many dirty suggestions.
Mhm.
Going back to this, like people want it or want to say things like dildo, all this stuff. Like we get that suggestion so much. And it's like people innocently wanting to explore, I think, that blueness as
Yeah.
much as they're allowed to or whatever.
Is
They don't
that
get
kind
to
of
shout out those words at the office, but they get to.
is that something that you bake into the show that will give the audience a chance to like shout out?
Yes and no. Like at the blues show, if we start that way, it gets too much too
Yeah.
fast. We actually have to like pump the brakes and I don't know, not give the audience too much too early. Because yeah, if we start at 10, then there's no place to go. Even with a blues show, we still have to like crank it up a little bit.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever do a blue show at Gorilla Tango? Was it only
So no, so we did one show there. We did a naked improv show.
cool. Okay,
And
this is
and that was a show where if the characters were to get naked in the world, then they would get naked. If a character was to take a shower, they would get naked. This was, to be fair, the theater I think was not doing great, and it was a like, can we do some special shows, get people in there? But man, I was dating one of the performers at the time, Christine Casal. She's amazing, and she played a gentleman with man tits, and so she was really insecure about her man tits and would often show them to her friends. Right? So there's like really funny, clever ways of being like blue, preferred or getting naked, whatever. With I don't know. Yeah, it's so weird though to force that stuff. I feel in some ways it's like, yeah.
yeah, there was a naked show here in Albuquerque. I think they've only done it once or twice, and it was at Kilt Check. And I shouldn't have actually named it out loud. And I'll
Stand-up
probably bleep it out. Yeah, it was a naked stand-up show. I
Yeah.
don't know if you're allowed to get naked in a space that serves alcohol unless you have a certain, but you must be able. I don't know. They did it.
Need pasties because
Mhm.
nipples and drinks will drive a man crazy.
And yeah, I'll bleep out who I said it was earlier, but they did do it. And then in New York, it happened a lot. It still happens. There is a naked show.
Mhm.
There's a naked roast that happens, which I can't imagine. I don't know if I could be that. Number one, this is what I wear swimming, so I'm not. There's no vulnerability possible with me in that. But to do that and then get roasted and roast would be like I can't. I don't know if I could.
Yeah. Like, what is that? It's just the heightened, it's like gore. It's like horror. It's what is the biggest we can make this? Like,
Mm.
and that's it, is naked roasting. So these would be people would get up and be roasted based on their bodies.
They'd roast each other. It'd be like a roast battle where they'd be like, "Look at this guy! Well, look at her!" Like, it's like
If you can get through that though, it seems good
And
on
you're-
you.
yeah, you'd be invincible for the next month, I'm sure. Just like
They
"You can't
did.
tell me."
I was part of a show in LA called Improv Jectification. It might still
Oh.
be around. And this was a show where, because women, when they're up on stage, have possibly, and I believe it, an extra layer of focus on them of, I don't know, a concern about looking good, all this stuff, especially in LA. You
Yeah.
have to look good and you're judged more of that than guys are. And so the show Improv Jectification was one where the men had to be shirtless and the women were clothed. And it was just an improv show, but it was good. It was fun. It was like nice too. And I did it. And it was for sure, I felt insecure. And I think that was something I hadn't felt people looking at me and judging me while I did improv until then.
Until
which
right
is
then.
the point. And I guess the female improvisers I had talked to around that time felt that. You feel a judgment on you in some capacity.
Interesting. What an
Yeah.
interesting concept. Maybe I'll do a stand-up show that's like that too.
Yeah,
Shirts
yeah,
off, boys.
Just if I can see. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so I have this one question that's about this that's been burning in the back of my mind since we talking about this. What do you think the role of blue is in a world where humor is trying to be edgelord stuff all over the place? Is edgy stuff blue or is it something completely different?
It's this backwards balance now, right? Where G-rated humor is almost more, I don't know, if you can like pull off not being gross, pushy, weird, I don't know, that almost seems more powerful these days, right? Because of that. At the same time, we're balancing that with woke culture, right? Or whatever that is. The world getting you can't say anything. And then so people saying way too much. I don't know. It seems like things are just more extreme. I think they've always been there though. There's always been people that push that envelope in some capacity, but now maybe it's everyone gets to. I don't know. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's fair, but it seemed like there'd be like a Richard Pryor that would say whatever and it would like shock the world. But now I don't know. Now who's doing that? It's just people.
Just people. Yeah, but it's like also one of those things where it's like Mae West, just traditionally so sexual, right? You would
Mhm.
consider that to be a very blue type of performance.
Sure.
Fairly tame nowadays, I would say.
Yeah,
Like it's
yeah,
all
yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
innuendo.
Yeah, totally. The stuff that used to shock does not shock anymore. But how shocking can you get? These kids, the kids talk about school shootings and stuff,
Yeah,
and I don't know. I'm
that's
not
pretty.
going to talk about that shit. They push the envelope for me where I'm like, I'm not comfortable with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, but it seems okay. So if we look at the history of blue humor and that and where it comes from, it's mostly like we said, scatological, which whatever, or sexual, and usually that means that you can push against social mores and like norms.
Hmm.
And so then you would maybe consider to be like comedians that are from marginalized communities or whatever to actually be more on the edge of that stuff. But then the
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
who are considered edgy are the people who are like actively working against that stuff and wanting to like they want so badly when you're edgy, do you want to be transphobic? And so it's is that blue to be transphobic because it is edgy but it's not cute? I don't know, like where is the
Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about Dave Chappelle or something? Like
not cute just because it's that's his only topic right now that would be an easy one to
that's,
draw it to, but
yeah, yeah. That's what has, that's all anyone can conflate him to right now or
mhm.
whatever in the past few years. Yeah. Do you wonder if those opinions are like true or if they're just
If
people pushing buttons?
sometimes I wonder if that's if it a lot of times I see it in open micers where they're just saying it to push buttons, but
Yeah.
it carries a narrative forward that then is I, given a platform. I don't know. It's a very weird thing that I'm still trying to parse through why it happens or where to even as a librarian to put it on a shelf or how to consider
Yeah.
it because it's not it definitely pushes buttons and it makes people go but at the same time it's not doing it in the way that this is all in good fun. Oh come on you and get naked or like that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
just not it's not
I mean, there's
done.
a meanness sometimes, right? A cruelty in some way, or a like, I'm smarter than these people, and so I'm going to use my brain to, I don't know, attack.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think I don't know a lot of the blue humor that I don't know. I feel like I don't use anger as a drive, and I think sometimes that is what it is. Let me get a reaction. Let me feel fucking alive, and if I can challenge an audience enough to like be upset with me, I don't know.
Is there improv out there right now that is like the 4chan type of
There has to be. There has to
right?
be. But for that to exist, you need an audience
No
of those
snowflakes.
people. So somewhere, yeah, there's got to be a club that is full of people that are feeding that vibe. But no, we'll do an open improv jam if there's any kind of trace of that you can feel like I don't know, people separate from that person in some capacity. And it just doesn't happen that much because people are loving and compassionate. It's not improv's not a space where you can be on your own and be an edge lord by yourself. People won't work with you because they're confused because you're coming at them so strong and stuff. It's hard to work with that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But as I think an open mic, you can be like, it's fucking me. Just burn all of the bridges and leave or whatever, especially if you're not from that town, whatever. There
Oh
is
yeah,
stakes.
roll
Whereas I
right
think,
in.
again, improv is very community. You really need a community. You fuck it up. And yeah, you don't have a space to do that work, I think.
Interesting.
There's so many open mics. You can be banned. I'm sure comedians that are banned from multiple open mics. No, there's got to be some.
Yeah, and that happened in New York. It was one of those things where but then sometimes because the open mics were just for comedians to say things out loud to other comedians. So it wasn't
Yeah.
even like a risk of it. So you could just go and you could just spout off anything you wanted to and everybody would
Yeah.
just roll their eyes and wait till the next person got on stage who was working on something or whatever.
Sure. Sure. People are used to it for
Yeah.
sure.
And then here, I don't know, it's weird. It's very interesting because it's our open mics here get crowds, real people want to come out and watch
Yeah.
and be in good faith, like we were talking about in the other episode, where it's like, yay. And then to be a person who gets up on stage and it's, you can't tell me nothing. It's my free speech. And then, okay, but you've really wrecked the evening of a few people in here. And like,
Yeah. You've hurt people possibly or whatever. You've been like, I don't know. It's just like like a lack
mhm,
of awareness of again how powerful this can be in some
yeah,
ways, I think.
yeah.
Yeah. We just have less open mics too. We have a jam once a month, and I think there's once a month up in Santa Fe too. So again, you fuck it up. You fuck it up. Where it's like there's every day of the week you can go to a different place and yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, we've got a blue show coming up. Does that change your pre-show warm up and anything like that too? What do you do to get in a blue mood?
Not really. Again, it's in us, and if we start it early, it's too late. We will get there for sure by the end of the show. So there's no need to push it, I don't think.
Cool. Anything else about this?
Let's see. One thing is, yeah, just I don't know, what's off limits, maybe?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Comedy, nothing really. It depends. You have the freedom to say anything you want, but so does the audience, and it should ideally self-regulate in
Mhm,
stand-up. It should be a thing where it's like, oh, I'm aiming for laughs, and so if I'm not getting laughs, I need to change up my approach to things. But
mhm.
mm, there's
Yeah, just rape jokes or whatever, racial joke. What is there things for sure that you're like, "This can never work?"
no, because the thing about it is too is, and we've had a couple people be like, I have subject matters that are completely off. You cannot say them in front of me, or I will walk out of here.
Mhm,
And rape is one of those topics. But I will say, if you are coming from a situation where you're talking about your experience having been raped, I think that there's
mhm,
actually some power in that. There's something that you can do to talk about that
mhm.
actually reaches out and connects with people who may be in a similar situation. And so
Yeah,
I would never say that a topic is off limits, but I do think that if it's not your lived in experience, you don't have any business
mhm,
poking around in there, because you could really hurt people if you
yeah,
don't do it right.
yeah. Yeah, I think I agree. Like, I feel in my brain there is a world where everything could happen. Oops, hang on, am I still there? Yeah, we're like, there's a world where that joke could work, and by could work, the performer, whatever the audience needs it fits. It's whatever. Yeah, it's backwards therapy, but it's the right thing to be said right now. And so I've never, yeah, my improvisers, like I've never told them these are off limits. Like we've even had situations where a word has come up or something in
Hmm.
a show, and it's a record scratch or whatever. Brazil nuts have another
Hmm.
term. And 15 years ago, I was in an improv show where someone used the term for Brazil nuts that I'd never heard before with the N word in it.
Hmm.
And very memorable, whole thing stopped. But yeah, it's like, oh, I talked about that last time even. It's a
Yeah.
very memorable moment of
Yeah.
my life. But yeah, same thing. It's like that was not the time. But there's a world where like stuff works, and like to regulate ourselves is a danger, I think. As soon as we say this thing's off limits, like it sneaks back in, or like it really does.
But I will say, when I went to the show the last time, you guys had a prompt that was like, "What's an accent that a white person can do?" Because
Yes.
you knew exactly how to regulate that one.
Because yeah, we should get into how the world has changed over the past 15 years. But yeah, we used to do all of the accents. I did a Apache and Navajo, like Indian, and it was okay. It was not. It was not, but didn't know. And there was a thought even back then. I think if someone does it really well, then it's good. They put the
Oh,
time and they thought about the thing or something. It was so backwards and just didn't see stuff until many years later, and how wrong it was to be like making jokes about cultures and things that were not mine.
yeah.
But I definitely
That's
stepped in it.
Yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where it's not, that's the best part about comedy too. We talked about that last time, where it's immediate feedback. So I think probably performers like us on either side are able to hear the tides turn and learn a little bit quicker than some other people who even still today are like, "What are you talking about? I can't say the term for Brazil nuts or whatever."
Sure, yeah, because you make a joke in front of a bunch of people, you'll get that feedback, but you can tell that joke at a bar a bunch of times, and I don't know, you're not gonna get that feedback, and you might make that mistake for years, but yeah, you and I will learn very quickly, like, what's taboo or what's
I
yeah,
heard an
what people
audible
don't like.
gasp. I'll never say that again. I promise.
100%, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right,
Cool.
let's go to the last little segment. You ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. That was new. Uh,
That's good.
so, Alex, this is the time now where we just wrap things up. We already talked about the Patreon board. We're tied at 1-1, but if you'd like to change that and you're out there right now, go to patreon.com/the Goofball Coalition podcast. I believe the link is
Mhm.
in the episode description. But $1 a month, and you can stake your claim on which side that you feel should win, I guess is really what it is. It is like a cold war between us right now.
Yeah, and we get to 20,000 on either side, then it's over.
Then it's over. Yeah. And we'll send you all the exact same stuff. It doesn't matter if you pick Team Stand Up or Team Improv, you get the exact same behind the scenes stuff, which at this point right now will be a screenshot of us when we're frozen and our faces look awkward. Or, yeah, who knows what it'll be. But cool stuff is coming your way for $1 a month. Additionally, we're always doing stuff. You want to officially plug the Blue
Sure,
Show?
yeah. March 9th at our theater, the Box Performance Space. We're having a blues show. Not only that, we're going to do a second Saturday's blues show every month, second Saturday of the month. So we'll have a food truck there. We're going to have Hollow Spirits is going to be there serving in our lobby and all kinds of stuff. We're going to do our blues show. There's a variety show after, and there's also a stand-up show.
Yeah, interesting that you bring up that stand-up show because we actually have a really big announcement that we made very recently. And what's nice about Dry Heat is currently our space is too small for us. And so we've needed to expand. And so we're actually partnering with the Box, and Dry Heat's new home is going to be in the Box's annex space. So now both of us are going to be down on Second and Gold
Oh my God, I
every
had
week
no
all the
idea.
time.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild?
Very cool. Very exciting. It's going to
Yeah.
be nice to have you there.
I think it'll be really cool. And I think there's a chance for us to do a lot of this stuff with shows and stuff too, and just explore the cross section where
So
improv
this
and stand-up
this will be
should
the first kind of official event of you guys in there?
Yeah, March 9th will be that.
Yep,
And
yep,
then
big deal.
our official move-in date that we're going to have a big party show on April 1st. And Hollow
Mhm.
Spirits is going to be there again to
Mhm.
serve up some drinks, and it should be really fun. We got a bunch of locals for the first, and then we also got Edward Bell coming down from Denver, and he's going to just be a special guest for us.
Very cool.
It's going to be so neat. I'm excited.
Awesome. We'll see you all March 9th.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Anyway, thank you all so much.
Bye.
Bye.